Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. At Mint Mobile, we like to do the opposite of what Big Wireless does. They charge you a lot, we charge you a little. So naturally, when they announced they'd be raising their prices due to inflation, we decided to deflate our prices due to not hating you. That's right. We're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Scouser Tommies on Anfield Index. I'm Jim Boardman and I'm with Jay Reid as always. And we're in this sort of hectic spell we were just talking before we came on, this very testing spell for Liverpool, who came out of the international break top of the league and flying high in the Champions League. This was going to be the most difficult spell. And as Jay said to me just before we came on, we're halfway through it. And, you know, most recently we've managed to get a point against Arsenal, which is what we were sort of like saying last week wouldn't be a bad score. We managed to beat Brighton in the Carling Cup, Coca-Cola Cup, Milk Cup, forgotten what it's called now, the Carabao, of course. Or has it changed sponsors again? Who knows? But whatever it's called, it's a cup that, you know, we love to win it, but we're not, no one I speak to is particularly bothered about us sort of putting everything into it. So, you know, either way, we got what we wanted. We got a win without putting all the best players in. And I don't think we can complain too much now. We've got a couple of games coming up that are part of this difficult run, I suppose. Brighton again, but in the league this time at home. And then Chabby's side, who didn't do too badly last season in Germany, Leverkusen. So maybe that's going to be the last big test before yet another international break, which is about, well, we've got this weekend's fixtures, a Champions League game, obviously, then another league game, then I think that's it until another international break kicks in. But I would say, I've just hinted at it now, I think myself and Jay, like most Liverpool fans, are pretty pleased with how we've started this season, how we've carried on with this season, and how we've managed to get through this this testing period, so to speak, so well. I mean, there's still a lot of difficult games to come, obviously, in the season. But Jay, I think, you know, these certainly, you know, Brighton in midweek, certainly Arsenal away, they're the ones that we're proper tests if we're going to get them for now, at least, because you can only beat what's in front of you, I suppose. And Arsenal are one of the, if there's three of us, if you include us, there's maybe three sides with serious hopes for the title. And that was one of them. And I don't know, they're crowing about it as if it was like amazing how well they've done, but I don't think they did that well. And I think we probably did what we set out to do.
Yeah, I think, you know, with the Arsenal game in isolation is a game, as we said last week, you would hope to win. I think it was over-egged how many injuries or non-injuries they actually had. You know, heaven forbid a couple of players should actually get injured. That's football. See our squad over the last couple of years for that one. You know, I think like the opportunity to win was there because, yes, they were slightly weaker than full strength. We were slightly weaker than full strength. You know, we weren't going to make a big deal of it like they did. But in the grand scheme of things, I think we all agreed beforehand, you know, if you go there and you take a draw, well, you're taking points off them in their own backyard, which is always a damage to the home team, especially a title rival. And, you know, I think if you're looking in comparisons to last season, you know, I think we went and lost there, didn't we? You know, I think the famous Odegaard photograph meme that was going around because, you know, they beat us but didn't win the league, so what did they mean anyway? So, yeah, you know, and then you take the actual game in the context of it. We were poor on the day, and there's no bones about it. You know, we have played better football, but the resilience to come back, you know, from behind twice, potentially with a bit more conviction and belief at the end, we might have been able to nick it. But as I say, grand scheme of things, you go into their backyard, you're taking the points, you sort of dust yourself off and you say, okay, well, job pretty much well done there. We move on. And I think, again, we said before this run of games, if you could go unbeaten throughout the whole spell, great. If you had to pick one to lose, then you would probably have said the Carabao Cup away at Brighton was one that was disposable. Because I think I listened to yourself on Raw and you said, this side of Christmas, the Carabao Cup is the lesser of any priority of trophy. Because, it kind of is something that can get in the way, but it also is an opportunity for your squad to be used and, minutes to be given to players who aren't getting regular minutes and see just what level certain players are at, whether that's players who are coming through the system, whether they're, on the fringe of the squad or rotation. And, the next round has been kind enough in a draw that, of all the Premier League teams available, Southampton probably are the weakest away from home, which will be, a nice easy trip for our travelling faithful. But of course, they will make the journey like they did to the South Coast of Brighton, just on top of Christmas. So, again, anyone who goes, fair play and credit to them. But it's one of them games that comes in another spell, busy period. So, yes, the squad will be used and tested. And, I think if you get past that stage and you are in the last four, as you say, after the other side of Christmas, then, it is within touch and reach. Wembley is on the horizon. Then you think, well, maybe we might just go, not 8 changes if you get there. You might go 4 or 5. And then, the trophy is available. And if Arnie Slot can put a trophy in the cabinet at the very first opportunity, fair play to him. Many other managers of other teams in the past, it's been well referenced how much they will target the League Cup just to get that little bit of silverware in the cabinet and just sort of, compose the whole, setup and say, like, look, I can do things, I can win things. Other Dutch managers have won trophies, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're good managers. 62 down the road. But, I think we seem to have got ourselves a decent ball fella on the evidence of what we've seen thus far. And again, just to reference what you said again on the post-match Raw tonight, if we do go on to success in this Carabao Cup, we would want it to be one of the successes this season, not the one success this season. And I think that was all, lost in the bit of last season, with the end of the Jurgen Klopp tenure. We knew he was going before we got to the Carabao Cup final, and yes, the parade was all about can they go on and win it all and, send them off on a high. And it ended up, sort of letting the air out the balloon, and we still got away with the Carabao Cup, and it did sort of feel as though we could have done a little bit more, but we just ran out of steam and legs. But we move on. This is a new season, you manage a new approach, and, we've turned the page, and if the opportunity presents itself to put one in the cabinet, we will do that. But the bread and butter, of course, is the league, and, then the Champions League, which we've got, as you say, coming up over the next week or so.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, the League Cup's got that, like, a sort of nostalgia for it, because as I was growing up, that was the cup we were winning at Wembley. We weren't winning the FA Cup because Bob Paisley was manager as I was growing up, and he never won the FA Cup. That's the one cup he never won. I mean, don't get me wrong, I used to love the excitement of Cup final day because it was it was such a big thing back then, much more, I think, than it is now. Everyone looked forward to the FA Cup final day. Even if you weren't playing, it's one of the games anyone would watch, sort of thing. And it was totally different. The League Cup, a bit more low-key, but for us, we kept winning it, we kept being involved in it. We were there through all of its various name changes. So I quite love that competition, but it's still only the League Cup, and it's not something to sort of be ignored when you have won it. But yeah, you definitely don't want to put everything into winning that, because it's not the thing that you're here for. Exactly what you said, bread and butter. Pretty sure that was one of the Shankly comments about the league at the time, because obviously Europe was a little bit weren't quite ready to be European kings when Shanks was here. We were just getting ready to do that, ready for Bob when he arrived. But yeah, Sunday, It's something else I think I touched on Raw as well, and it just reminded me then of the reactions last year when they beat us from them, and some of the reactions from them. It was actually Harry was talking about some of the stuff he's heard from Arsenal fans, and I think Guy just off air we were just having a chat about Arsenal fans and stuff they've heard, and how they've been making out this was the end of the world, and how hard done to they were, and I mean, a bit early in the pod for us to give a mention to our mates across the park, but Arteta has completely given them the Everton bug, hasn't he? I mean, they just come across as like completely Everton with all the bitter stuff they're coming out with all the time. There's no need for it, and I don't think they were this bad before Arteta came along. Maybe it's just a coincidence, but there's like this sort of, I don't know, spending a bit too much time complaining about what everyone else has done instead of looking at what you've done yourselves. And yeah, and then, you know, going overboard when you have a win. You know, I mean, no one will ever forget the DVD Everton brought out just because he beat us on a derby once. I'm just waiting for Everton. I'm surprised Arsenal didn't do the same last year. No one does DVDs now, but maybe they'll get an Amazon special put on or something.
Yeah, it's the old saying, once Everton's touched you, you're scarred for life, isn't it, really? Or the old Wayne Rooney, once a blue, always a blue reference when he went to Man United and spent the best of his career there, but they welcomed him back with open arms because he was always a blue.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's a sort of like a criminal record, isn't it? It'll never be gone. It'll always just be there, you know, a petty crime that you've committed. You know, you might have stole a cream egg or something and just being slapped on the wrist when you were a young nipper, but, you know, it's still on your record. You know, it's not like 3 points on your driving license, which will eventually disappear after 5 years. It'll always be there. And yeah, it does seem, you know, the social media world and fandom it's obviously a different world to the reality of football fandom in one way or another. There does seem to be a lot of cry arson from Arsenal, and they bought into this Arteta whinging, hard done to approach, and you just think, well, come on, lads, you're one of the best teams in the country, and yes, you're missing a couple of players. You know, you've even got like Pep whinging now that he's missing 13 players. I mean, if only he had 115 other things to worry about on his mind, he'd be all right. But
how many of the 13 players have like people heard of? You know what I mean?
Yeah, like, and you know, Pep will go, oh yeah, I'm missing 13 players, and you can guarantee, you know, they're away to Bournemouth this weekend. The starting 11 for Man City would start probably for every other team in the league, or the majority of that team would get starting places in other teams in the league, probably including ours, some of them. You know, and yes, the bench might be a bit weak, but, you know, times are hard, and, you know, that's part of football. And, you know, in the respect of Guardiola, then he always has operated on a relatively thin squad. He usually only has 18 to 20 players, so that's his choice, that's his doing. He doesn't choose to, you know, not have a big... Well, he did choose to not have, you know, an overinflated squad. He does like a pretty thin-ish squad and hope that, you know, the injury gods stay on the side. And in Arsenal's case, you know, they've got a bit of a bigger team than City, and a couple of injuries and silly suspensions, which is their own doing again. Or, you know, the team they put out there last Sunday, you know, Saliba and Odegaard aside, that was their best team. You know, so, you know, if you say Jota and Alisson would be in our starting 11, then you're fair game. You know, you took one of your best defensive players out of your system, and you've took one of your most creative, you know, or goal scoring threats out of your system. So, you know, you're batting off against each other with the same setup. What you've developed in your squad around that is your choice and your doing. So, you know, you've got no right to moan there. And, you know, you've still seen throughout this week, even though like other games have taken place as Friday as we, you know, record this, there's still sort of whinging from Arsenal fans about, you know, Havertz's goal should have counted, even though there was, you know, 3 fouls potentially within that. And, you know, even though Mike Dean was like, oh, I would have given it. Well, of course you would, Mike. You possibly at times weren't even watching the game. You would probably thinking, that's a bit of a wrestling move, but I'll let it go anyway. So, yeah, just get on with it. You know, like, if we want to be petty about it, we'll just say, well, look at the shit that got away with last season. You know, you think the Odegaard handball in the box, which was clear as day, which was brushed off, and then you think in the Man City game, how Jeremy Doku can kung fu kick Alexis McAllister in the chest, and he was competing for the ball, so it's fine. Like, if we want to play silly beggars, then we can do that. But we're not. We have a little bit of a grundle about it for the aftermath of the game, but we think, well, that's what we're going to get with these referees. You win some, you lose some. At the end of the day, they're just all a bit bad. So you've just got to go with the old mantle of it'll balance out across the season. It might not, but you kind of hope sometimes it will. And if we are looking back at last weekend and saying, well, had that have been us in the situation with Kai Havertz, of course we'd be like, well, why wasn't it a goal? But then you go, well, actually, in reality, we've got away with one a little bit. It was maybe a little bit keen by the referee, but look at stuff that's, been flagged up for us, and we haven't got, see the weekend before with Curtis Jones and Robert Sanchez. As an example, you get some, you lose some. It's just a case of the referees being bad, and they're consistently bad, so you kind of hope that consistency will balance at some point throughout the season in one way or another.
He blew the whistle though, didn't he? And
he was
and he was blowing it and blowing it and blowing it and blowing it. And I think that's the bit that's not being taken into account as well. Is although you tell players to play to the whistle, and we do it, you still sort of have this thing where, well, until that, you say to players, until damn well that the ball is out of play, that the referee has stopped the game, you just got to carry on as if he hasn't. Even like especially with VAR now, the flag doesn't go up, even though for sure he's offside. So the keeper will come out and try and stop it, even though he knows full well he's offside. But despite all of that, you still, if the referee's blown his whistle like mad, you put your brakes on. You're easing off. You're just, all right, it's done. Whether it's a fair decision or not, he's blown, and he's not going to change his mind once it's blown. And that's the thing that just got forgotten. Would there still have been on that effort that they had? I don't know. I just don't get why people just are so happy to be so biased, which I understand you're a football fan, but not able to just sort of take a step back and put a little bit of balance back into it. I just don't get why people are so heavy into that, other than it's kind of how it works. And again, go back, it's the Everton side of things, isn't it? Just basically just find things, just pick up on odd things, just take it all out of context and mention it and talk about how that's the proof that Liverpool have got the Premier League in the pocket or whatever,
Every American deserves the right to fair housing, and Kamala Harris is working to make that right realized by us all. She learned firsthand how hard it is to work toward the dream of having a home. As California's Attorney General, Kamala Harris took on the big banks and Wall Street. And now she's looking to give first-time home buyers $25,000 for a down payment. This November, vote for the leader looking out for your home.
I'm Kamala Harris, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Harris for President.
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
The biggest conspiracy theorists in the world are the Ev. Even though, they had themselves a decent win, a decent point last weekend, even though from all accounts I didn't bother myself with watching their game, because why would I? From the lads I speak to, they said that's one of the worst performances they've ever seen, but they managed to claw themselves out of it and get a point. So you think, well, then be grateful for what you've got there, because you you were played off the park by all accounts from what you've said against Fulham. But attention was soon shifted to, well, you got away, you dodged a point, you've got a point, and they're like, well, you shouldn't have had that, you should have lost. You didn't, so worry about yourselves and your own problems first, and then concern yourself with us and what we're doing afterwards if you've got time for that. But that's just how their mentality works. In our grand scheme of things, it's like more of a, oh, how did they get on? Oh, great. Or, oh, all right, fair enough. Where it's like, must sit down, let's see how they can lose. And if they can't lose, let's see how we can find a way to say why they didn't. and yeah, it's a strange mentality to have. And as you say, Arteta's certainly bought into that one.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of football fans have superstitions, so like you go the game, you've got to wear that pair of socks you had on last time because you won when you had that pair of socks on or whatever. I can just imagine them having superstitions where they're actually trying to do like bits of like witchcraft or something to see if they can get Liverpool to lose. And just being Halloween, just being busy night before that, I mean, who knows, maybe they've had the cauldrons out or whatever this last couple of days to see whether they can put anything on us, but they've not managed to do it so far, so let's wait and see. The Arsenal game, I think one thing that stood out to me in that game, and it's like doing Raw, the good thing about doing Raw is you literally are still feeling worked up about the game, good, bad, or the other, or anything else. I mean, and in this case, you sort of, I don't know, at the end of that game, you've got a mixture of being frustrated because you think there were times in that game when we could have done more and we could have actually won that game maybe. And then you're also thinking, well, there were times in that game when if they'd have really, really gone for the jugular with us, they could well have battered us. And in the end, I think, if they're frustrated, they should be frustrated because, they didn't take chances that they had, never mind a referee or anything else. They faced a Liverpool side that wasn't, in my view, trying to do enough attacking, sat back a little bit too much, and they didn't take that chance to get past that Liverpool team. Except in parts of the game, it kind of switched the other way around. But I think the thing I'm struggling to get used to, but I think I will, is just this sort of idea with Liverpool of, we're not that side that just goes out on the attack now. And I think, I don't know, I've sort of felt, especially when Klopp was here, but even since before that, sometimes we've been better going forward than defending. And the further the ball is from our goal, the better. The less chance there is of it going in our goal. And if it's up the other end where maybe we've got more quality, then you hope that something's going to come of it. But I don't know, this season we've seen this different side to Liverpool, and he was definitely there for big chunks of that Arsenal game, and he was definitely there against Brighton towards the end. The fact that, we brought two world-class strikers on, or world-class forwards on, and they hardly touched the ball. And I don't know, I'm getting used to it, and I know it's all for a good reason, but I can't help but think that we need to maybe just tone it down a little bit. And I might be wrong, I'm not going to go and tell Slot how to do his job, but I don't know, for the sake of our nerves maybe, I'm not keen on us just sitting back too much and just inviting pressure.
I think the probably reason you and many others feel that is we're doing it at 2-0, which can be a dangerous scoreline. Or in the case of the Brighton game, it was 3-1 the other night, wasn't it? And we sort of like sat on our laurels a little bit, as the saying goes. And you think, well, it's the most dangerous scoreline in the game for a reason. Like you give them a sniff, and the game's back on. Where if we were doing it at 3-0, then and the team gets to 3-1, there's 10 minutes to go, you think, well, there could be nervy, but you then sort of say, well, very well, steal the next 5 or 6 minutes, and you've got the job done. Or at 2-0 or 3-1 or whatever, it's a slightly dangerous game to play in. And yes, we've got the quality within our defensive ranks to see it through in the most part, but it's a little bit of a feature that we could probably do with just sharpening up probably a little bit, because we're not bad at all at it. Like, let's be honest with you, we're not getting done like Everton and going 2-0 up and losing 3-2 on a regular basis, but we're maybe given opportunities and making it unnecessarily awkward and overexerting ourselves in situations where we don't need to. It would be nice if, over the next couple of games, we could maybe, batten down a couple of clean sheets and get, a nice victory or two in terms of the 3-0s or something like that. And, seeing out a game, and there's no harm with going 2-0 up and maybe sort of consolidating to the point of, okay, well, we're going to sit back and soak up a little bit of pressure, but we're also going to keep a threat on the counter-attack, and that's what I thought we were going to do the other night when Salah and Darwin come on. But as you say, they come on and it was basically like a game of, well, go and stretch your legs, lads, but let's play a game of, not have the ball football and sort of working on positional play and runs. And, imagine a training session where you don't have the ball and you say, right, well, if the ball was to go here, where would you be? Where would you run? And it sort of felt as though we were going through that because they didn't want any interest in playing with the ball. And yeah, it would have been nice to then go on and just ban the scoreline home and finish the game. But it probably is something that we can work on. I'm sure Slot and his coaching staff are well aware of the fact that we created unnecessary pressure, which then obviously led to the huge narrative storyline of the Kwanzaa substitution or whatever. And, it was a headline which was unnecessarily created and didn't need to really be made much of what it was. But, if we had just been a bit more professional and ruthless in an attacking sense, we wouldn't have maybe put the lad in that situation where he felt, we had to then sort of take him off to save the game and maybe save him in a way. But yes, it as we were saying last week, we're winning games, so we're maybe nitpicking a little bit on what we can fine tune, but you always are fine tuning. You as a Formula One fan yourself know, it's the tiniest little changes in the car setup that can lead to such a drastic effect in terms of the results of the performance of the car, and that's literally what we're trying to look at here. Can we fine tune it a little bit more and make the performance of the team a little bit better?
Yeah, and I think let's mention Kwanzaa now, because, and I think in Raw I sort of had a bit of a go at Slot, not a bit massive go, but I thought it was a bit. I mean, we read on about him last season as a great defender and how good he was and how he was actually, in our view, he was definitely like, and I think it's a little bit down to how Ibu wasn't at his best at times last season. He was definitely challenging Ibu for that, to be the second choice, the Virgil's partner, if you like. And of course, he started the first half game of the season, only played half of it, got taken off. Slot made some comments that, you could interpret them in different ways, and he said they weren't meant to be interpreted as a criticism of the player, but it sort of felt like that. And then you sort of fast forward to the other night, and he makes a couple of mistakes that are big mistakes in terms of what it leads to. I mean, let's be honest. If Liverpool were on, full power at the time and he made a mistake, there's a chance that someone else would have cleared the mistake up for them. It was just unfortunate. But even so, my thinking was, we can't keep having a situation where he's not playing. Then when he comes in, he's getting stuff like this that's so high profile. It's just not going to do him any good. It's going to shoot his confidence. Maybe let's get him sent on loan. But I think today Slot has actually said he thinks that he played a very good game against Brighton. The only issue he's got at the moment is if he has a moment that's not perfect, it immediately leads to a goal. That's what happened in this game. And Slot says, in his opinion, he was unlucky. He says you can't judge a player leaving these two moments out because they're so vital for a result, but he says Kwanzaa's getting better and better and better. He was already really good, and so for him it's just that last step to make, and that he's already showed in the past he can play a game without making these small mistakes. So I think that's sort of redressing the balance really for some of the criticism I've had for Slot, because he's kind of gone out of his way there to big player up. I'm not sure that'll be enough for him and to get his confidence back, but I hope it is. Because I think, let's face it, how long would it take us to put a list of errors made by bigger name centre-backs for Liverpool down the years? I mean, Jamie Carragher goes straight in the list with his 2 own goals in a game against United, wasn't it? There's plenty of Virgil van Dijk bad moments. There's plenty of Ibu bad moments, I'm sure. And let's not even get started on Skirtle and Lovren and people like that. It's what happens. So it's just how you react to it. And I think that's going to be the key thing with him. One thing I always admired about Pepe Reina up and towards, when he started going wrong for him towards the end, prior to that was he'd make a mistake in a game. Next game, fine. He wouldn't even know he'd ever made it. Whereas you had other keepers in the past who make a mistake in a game and they're off form for weeks and months, never the same again. And And that's what you've got to be. You've got to be resilient when it doesn't quite work out. And in the end, we still won. And that's the other thing that's interesting from the other night. I was critical, really, that we didn't have, if you like, a proper forward in the middle of the two wingers, if that's the right way to put it, because the formation's sort of, well, we can all decide what we want to name the formation, but it is kind of two wingers, and then usually we'd have, for example, Jota or Darwin in the middle of them. We weren't bothering with that the other night. We were just playing with them wide. And so we kind of had Jones and Dom, Curtis and Dom, sort of playing almost like a sort of number 9, but not quite a number 9. And it seemed to be Dom more than Curtis. I just thought it was, I don't know, it just felt like it was a good experiment, give it a go. But to me, they should only be, that's for emergency use only. And I think, as you said to me, and I mentioned it on Raj, you said to me, that's kind of, to me, although he was an awful pass that he got given by Gakpo, I think Dom's, the hospital ball, as you put it, that Dom got, I still wonder whether an out-and-out recognised striker might have still been able to do something with it. Might have just been running in a different speed at a different time. But even so, he just felt like, you know, that's what we were missing. We were missing just like a centre forward that day.
Yeah, I think the Szoboszlai one, like, he's fast becoming the Henderson figure, isn't he? Like we said last week, you know, it's it's a divisive figure, and it's the divisive role that he's playing within our team. And I think, you know, it's one that people will overlook. And I think the Arsenal game was a good sort of barometer for that he didn't get the nod to start, and I think there was no issue in that. You know, people said, you know, Curtis fully deserved and earned his position in the team, and rightly so, he got the nod. But it was a slightly different role from what he played against Chelsea for Curtis Jones, and he didn't exactly excel in the same way in the Arsenal match. But we did, at times, you think we're missing a little bit of legs and energy in that section of the field, and it did feel as though at times in the first half we were a bit outrunning midfield, and we could do with the energy and, you know, movement and football, nous and tactical knowledge of Szoboszlai. And that's not a knock on Curtis Jones, because he's got all them things as well. But Szoboszlai's probably got just no more experience in his locker to do that. And when he came on in the second half, there was, you know, a difference, and, you know, we did see what he brings, and then you sort of think, well, you know, well, that's what people are overlooking, and that's what they're missing. And, you know, fast forward to Wednesday night, it was an experiment, as you say. It didn't really come off, and I think you're right in the fact that if Jota or Darwin was there, I think if you take those two players, you know, in that situation, I think Jota may well just take a better touch and thinks around the keeper, where I think Darwin probably just rifles it first time. And that's just the players that they are, and who knows what the outcome is in both situations. But it probably would be something they're more accustomed to dealing with, an awkward ball coming at them, but, you know, the whites of the goal are in front of them, and it's a case of, right, split-second decision, what you do, do you fire it, do you take a touch, do you go around the keeper, whatever. And I think Szoboszlai was in that, he's in that zone of a bit of a low ebb of confidence. And I think he referenced himself on his socials, you know, he was like, you know, good performance, good result tonight, I think I just need to work on my finishing. So he knows, you know, he's not stupid. He knows, like, you know, it was an opportunity, and next time he will do better. But, you know, again, we are clearly overestimating when he's not there, like what he does bring. So, you know, those people who maybe look at situations, well, what is Dom Szoboszlai doing? He's not scoring goals, he's not assisting goals. No, but see Gini Wijnaldum 4 reference points on that one, which we said last week. So, yeah, I think that the lad himself, you know, needs the old saying, it needs to go in off his backside to get his confidence up. And, you know, he could do with, you know, an opportunity where the ball drops and he might not hit it cleanly, but it flies in, and you think, you know, that'll probably be the weight off his shoulders that he might need, and, you know, we build and go from there. But, you know, it's an opportunity that when it was fast forwarded about 30, 45 seconds later, Gakpo decided, right, the hospital ball's gone, and I'm just going to deal with the situation myself, and I need out with it.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.